Hello all, welcome to our classes on Indian art and culture, and we will be covering. We have almost covered the entire syllabus of art and culture for your UPSC AOEO examination and EPFC examination. So in today's movement, we'll fast move with the Bhakti movement. The Bhakti movement is an important component of the medieval India's cultural history, and it was a subtle revolution in the society which brought about by a galaxy of socio-religious reformers. It refers to the theistic devotional trend that originated in India during the medieval period and later altered the society. So the Bhakti movement empowered those at the bottom of the Indian society, and it fueled the growth of vernacular literature. So this article will explain you the features of the Bhakti movement, which will be helpful in Indian art and culture preparation for your UPSC examination. So here is a map which shows the a summary and different places where Bhakti movement emerged in India at different points of time. So for your reference, you can refer to this map, and it's very easy to remember. So the Bhakti movement began in the southern portions of India, particularly Tamil Nadu, between 7th and 12th centuries, and it gradually spread to the northern belt by the end of the 15th century. So it first started in the Tamil Nadu, that is in the 7th and 12th centuries, and it moved to the northern belt by the end of 15th century. And in the South India, there were two major groups of Bhakti saints. They were Nayanars, who were Shiva devotees, and Alvars, who were the Vishnu devotees. They preached devotion to God as a way of salvation while rejecting the austerities preached by Buddhism and Jainism. So basically, it was against the preachings of the Buddhism and Jainism, and they were two groups. One is the devotees of Shiva, the other one is the devotees of Vishnu. So the majority of their poems were on the devotional relationship between devotee and God. They spoke and wrote in vernaculars such as Tamil and Telugu so that ordinary people could read and recite them. So in Bhakti tradition, the presence of priest was not at all essential. This greatly increased the popularity of the movement. That is why the priest role was very limited, and it was not essential at all here, because it was an argument between, or the race against the Buddhism and Jainism. So they wanted to simplify the religion and the bhakti between the devotee and God as much as possible. So you should understand the origin of this Bhakti movement here. The term Bhakti is derived from the Sanskrit word bhaj, which means to share, participate in, or be a part of. So unlike the sensual love, Bhakti is spiritual, and it refers to the total devotion. So Bhaktism arose as a result of several reasons. The first reason was Hinduism had grown exceedingly ceremonial, and the caste system had taken hold. So first thing is, the ceremonials were costing so much for the Aam Aadmi, and it was very difficult for them to do these ceremonies. And caste system had become very rigid, and really it had taken the hold. Both Jainism and Buddhism advocated rigorous asceticism and were plagued by a lack of support. First thing was about the Hinduism becoming more complex and complex. The second reason was people were also not able to go to Jainism and Buddhism because they advocated rigorous asceticism, which was not possible for a family man to cope up with. Also, there was lack of support from the kings and other common people at that point of time. So the Sufi movement, on the other hand, was gaining popularity due to its egalitarian beliefs and ease of prayer. So people were looking for a way to satisfy their emotional and spiritual requirements, which was of very ease and which even a family man can follow. So these were the reasons which contributed to the rise and expansion of the Bhakti tradition within Hinduism, and Bhakti saints opposed the established religion and advocated for several changes. So let's see the two schools of Bhakti here. These Bhakti saints were separated into two schools. on how they perceived God. So, one school of thought envisioned God as formless, devoid of traits or qualities. The Nirguna school of philosophy is the name for this school of thought, which sees God as formless, it devoid of traits or qualities. The Saguna school, on the other hand, believed that God had a particular form, character, and positive attributes, and that the God shows himself in incarnations such as Rama and Krishna. So, one school thought God as formless, the other schools thought God will come himself in different incarnations like Rama and Krishna, and that is called Saguna. So let's at first see about this Nirguna school of Bhakti. This Nirguna symbolizes the poet saints who exalted God apart from all qualities or forms. They are also referred to as monotheistic Bhakti saints. The Nirguna's main proponents were Nanak and Kabir. So the Nirguna poet saints condemned the Brahmin supremacy and all caste-based traditions as well as the practice of idolatry. So the Nirguna school said we are going to do a monotheistic bhakti, means we are going to surrender to one God. So the main proponents here was Nanak and Kabir. They condemned Brahmin supremacy, also condemned the caste-based traditions and also the practice of idolatry. So they valued what? Personal encounters with God, means there is no priest between a man and God, it is direct to the God. And although calling their deity by various names and titles, their God was formless, everlasting, and non-incarnate and non-effable. Their views appear to be a fusion of three traditions. One is the Vaishnava concept of bhakti, the Nanpanthi movement, and the Sufism. So, despite adopting the concept of bhakti from Vaishnavism, they gave it a Nirguna emphasis. Next is the Saguna school. The Saguna represented the poet saints who wrote poetry glorifying a god based on the qualities or form. The prominent proponents of Saguna were Tulsidas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Suradas, and Mirabai. So the Saguna poets favored Brahmin domination and they defended the caste system. While Nirguna people, they did not favor the Brahmin domination and also they opposed the caste system. But see here, the Saguna people, they favored the domination of the Brahmins and also defended the caste system. They preached a religion of submission and simple confidence in a personal God while also encouraging the worship of idols. So what the Nirguna people opposed were supported or favored by the Saguna school. So they recognized the spiritual validity of the Vedas as well as the need for a human guru to act as a bridge between the God and his devotee. See here, the Nirguna opposed the Brahmin domination. They also opposed the caste system. They also said we are monotheistic and no need of any human guru to act as a bridge, and they did not support the validity of the Vedas, which is opposite to the Saguna school of Bhakti. So why there were the rise of this Bhakti movement? We should know the reasons for this. So the evils in Hindu culture was the main reason. So Hindu society was riddled with social oddities such as caste rigidity, irrelevant rituals and religious practices, blind faiths and social dogmas. Common man in general had formed an aversion to these societal problems and needed a liberal form of religion in which they could identify with the basic religious rituals. The religion's complexity, the great philosophy of the Vedas and Upanishads was extremely difficult for the common people to understand, and they desired a simple form of worship as well as simple religious practices and social conventions. So Bhakti Marga was an alternative, a simple way of devotion to obtain redemption from the worldly existence. So please understand the reasons. One is the evils in Hindu culture, that is the caste rigidity, irrelevant rituals, religious practices, blind faiths, and social dogmas. The thing is, the common man in general had formed an aversion to all these societal problems and he wanted a liberation from this. Second is about the religious complexities and the great philosophies of Vedas and Upanishads were not understood by the common people, and the common people wanted simple religion. So it was shown by this Bhakti Marga. What are the significance of this movement? It was founded on monotheistic ideas, means you need not have to believe in so many gods, every day do different gods to attain moksha, but you have to believe in one god and make him as your life. And they largely condemned idol worship. The Bhakti movement was founded on the belief that the best way to connect to God is through love and worship rather than through rituals or religious rites. So the Bhakti reformers advocated escape from the cycle of life and death, and that salvation could only be obtained through intense devotion and confidence in God. They emphasized the significance of self-surrender in gaining God's happiness and grace, as well as the value of gurus who served as the mentors and preceptors. They taught the universal brotherhood principle, or Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. They were opposed to ceremonies, pilgrimages, and fasting. They were vehemently opposed to the caste system which segregated the people based on their birth. They also emphasized the singing of hymns with profound devotion and without regard for any language as sacred. They created lyrics in the common people's language. So let's see the textual influences here. Bhakti is mentioned in ancient Indian scriptures dating back to the first millennium BCE, which includes the Shweta Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, and the Bhagavad Gita. Apart from the Gyan Marg and the Karma Marg, the Bhagavad Gita discusses Bhakti as a means of attaining salvation. So Bhakti is also mentioned in the sutras. It is stated especially in the Narada Sutra and the Shandilya Sutra. In South India, between the 7th and the 12th centuries, the popular Bhakti movement grew throughout South India. It was founded on religious equality as well as broad social engagement. The Shaivite Nainars and the Vaishnavite Alvars who propagated the Bhakti cult under the Pallavas, Pandyas and Cholas ignored the Jains Buddhist austerities, and they proclaimed that personal commitment to God was the only way to salvation. They ignored the rigidities of the caste system and used local languages to spread the message of love and personal devotion to God throughout South India. So who are these Alvars? The Alvars means those who steeped in God were Vaishnava poet saints who travelled along singing praises to Vishnu or his avatar Krishna. So they were Vaishnavites who worshipped Vishnu or Krishna as the supreme being, and there were 12 Alvars in the total. They wrote hymns in honor of Vishnu and his avatars, which were collected in Divya Prabandha. They also lauded the Divya Deshams, which allude to the 108 Vaishnavite deities' abodes. So Andal is the only female Alvar saint who was known as Meera of the South. The Nayanars. They began as a congregation of 63 Tamil saints dedicated to Lord Shiva. The specifics of the saints' life are documented in the text called Tevaram, commonly known as the Dravida Veda. On the request of Chola ruler Rajaraja I, his priest began compiling the Nayanar hymns into a series of volumes known as Tirumural. The Nayanars came from a wide range of backgrounds. Brahmins and nobility were among them, and so were the oil merchants and the Vellalars. The Alvars and Nayanars fought the Brahminical dominance as well as Jainism and Buddhism. They collaborated to provide the groundwork for India's Bhakti movement. So let's see the North India. So during the 12th and 17th centuries, the Bhakti movement gained prominence in the northern portions of the country. So the Bhakti movement in North India is sometimes thought to be a continuation of the movement which began in the south. So despite the parallels in the two region traditions, the concept of Bhakti differed according to the teachings of each of the saints. So the expansion of Islam in India affected the northern medieval Bhakti movement. The main aspects of Islam, such as belief in one God, that is monotheism, equality and fraternity, rejection of rituals and class divisions, all had a significant influence on the Bhakti movement of this age. The campaign also brought about some social reforms. So let's see some Bhakti saints like the Ramanuja, who was between 1060 to 1118 AD. He was a Tamil Brahmin and one of the most prominent Vaishnavites. So he is a Alvar. He traveled to several locations to convey his message of love and dedication before settling in Sri Rangam. He was the creator of the philosophy Vishishta Dvaita or qualified monism. According to him, salvation is possible through karma, jnana or bhakti. Next is Madhvacharya, 1238 to 1317 AD, who founded the Dvaita Vada or the dualism school of Vedanta. So he was a critic of Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita Vada theory, claiming that the Atman, individual soul, and Brahman, ultimate reality, that is Lord Vishnu, are fundamentally distinct, and that the individual soul is dependent on the Brahman and never can be identical. So the Vallabhacharya, 1479 to 1531 AD, he founded Shuddha or pure non-dualism, and his philosophy is also known as Pushti Marg. The group is based on Krishna, particularly his child appearance, and is embellished by the usage of costumes, music and festivals. It is also established the Rudra Sampradaya school. The Dhyaneshwar Gnanadev of 1275 to 1296 AD. He was the earliest Bhakti saint in Maharashtra and wrote the Dhyaneshwari commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Amritanubhav on yoga and philosophy is his other work. Both of his pieces are regarded as landmarks in the Marathi literature. Eknath, 1533 to 1599 AD. He was a Maharashtrian saint of Varkari Panth. Sufi mysticism and Vedanta philosophy affected him. So Eknathi Bhagavatam, a commentary on the Bhagavata Purana, is his most famous work, and he is a follower of Saguna religion. So Bhakti movement and women. The Bhakti saints advocated for equality and encouraged women to participate. They denounced female infanticide and the practice of sati. They also invited the women to renounce their worldly ties and participate in the community-based kirtans. So Mirabai was the most famous female Bhakti saint, and her songs devoted to Krishna are immensely popular in India. So Mirabai, 1498 to 1546. She was a princess from Pali, Rajasthan, and she was born into a royal family. So Mirabai was a devotee of Lord Krishna and considered Krishna to be a lover. She wrote bhajans, short religious songs, and which are still heard today. Mirabai was written in Braj Bhasha and Rajasthani. So the contributions of this Bhakti movement was very critical in bringing the much needed religious, social and cultural reforms. It advocated for an equal social order by speaking out against caste and gender prejudice. They espoused the religious concord and universal fraternity. Some saints drew Hindus and Muslims closer together and worked to reconcile their competing interests. They instilled in their students the importance of purity of mind and action. The religion was brought to the public through the use of vernacular languages in their teachings, and this resulted in the expansion and development of vernacular languages and literature. A lot of works, for example, was created in Hindi, Marathi, and Gujarati. The Bhakti saints were passionately opposed to the prescribing of intricate ceremonies. Rather than rituals, a personal connection with God through bhajans and kirtans became the most popular form of devotions. So thank you, and we'll see in our next video. Like and subscribe to our channel, and also leave your comments. Thank you and have a great day.